This one's a bop this morning.
I like it. It's a chill vibe, but still like you're gonna get some stuff done.
Yeah, right? Like maybe eventually.
We need it. What if we went the route of like surge and then it's like really intense, you know, like 8-bit, like Mega Man music, you know what I mean? You know, it's like the AI action figures went so viral and people are still doing them and it's really fun. And I love that people have a fun way to do that stuff. But one thing that nobody has done, and I understand why, is that you can use Grok to vibe code a video game, like an 8-bit video game. And I have it in my back pocket that I am going to do a couple of those because I've spent a lot of time playing games, loving games. And I just think it would be great. Like imagine, you know, like a version of, you know, SimCity, but it's like Kansas City and it's Molzer, you know, like doing his development stuff, right? Like there's so many different, or like a version of Paperboy, except it's Bob Knakkel, like walking the streets of New York, you know? I'm just saying, like there's so much stuff like that, but it's a lot of work.
Farmville. Chris Hatch in Farmville, and he's setting up like all of his.
It's just like, well, him is like Chick-fil-A, Dutch Bros. Like he would be like all of his little. I don't know. I just think everybody should have a video game. Personally,
I think it's a great idea. It's a lot of fun. All right, we have somebody. Oh, Mr. Regalado is already saying good morning. Good morning, heck. I can't believe I did that. Heck, what the heck?
What the heck?
What the heck? All right. So today, well, first of all, I haven't even done an intro yet. Good morning and welcome to Social Surge with Fly and Mo. I'm Mo Regalado. She is Fly Jamerson, and we are here to help you with your social media and marketing and whatever else we feel like. You can always send your question in. Please do. We enjoy the interactive audience experience. But today, we actually have a couple things that we're going to be talking about, and that includes the 3 things that are killing your credibility online. Oh, wait, it's Terry King. Hi, Terry.
What up?
Amazing woman. Met her at Beth Azor's Women's Real Estate Investment Summit in 2023. Nice. Just doing incredible things. Sorry, I have a mat that I stand on, and I'm like only standing on a portion of it, so it was bothering me, so that's why.
It's important to be comfortable,
right? Love the hat wall. The hat wall is a nice addition behind you.
I know. I have so many more. I've of course I revealed myself. I had one fall down this morning, but yeah, I have, you know, like probably this many hats more, and I just ran out of hooks, right? And so I'm still figuring out the right way to display them. But again, you know me, I love my merch, I love my swag. You know, it feels a little bit like history too, a little bit like the hats I buy off eBay. I'm like, who's this random brokerage that doesn't exist anymore, but why is their hat on eBay? It's really.
Are they like expensive?
No, there's a Redfin hat that I've been eyeing that I'm just like, I'm really waiting for the price to come down. So it's sort of like the way some of these people watch the stocks of the Bitcoin. I'm just like, I'm dumping it all in hats. I'm dumping it all in hats.
Well, thanks, Terry. We appreciate that. I hope it's helping you out. Today, like I said, we're going to be talking about 3 things killing your credibility online. And why is this such a huge thing? Well, as we know, when you present yourself on social media, and people meet you in real life, if there is a disconnect between how you present yourself on social and how you are in real life, people start to think like, is this person for real? Like, can I actually trust who they are? Which is, as much as we like mouth puke over the word authentic, this is why it's so important for you to show up authentically online as yourself. Good morning, Jeffrey Pollock over on Instagram. Thanks for joining us. All right. So one of those things that we want to discuss is inconsistent messaging. And we see it everywhere. And so like when I connect with clients, and we go through their one-liner and we talk about what is your value proposition, right? that value proposition needs to be across platform. So if you're on Twitter, it needs to say the same thing that it says on LinkedIn as the same thing that it says on Instagram and Facebook and your website and in your email marketing. Oh my God, yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing, right? So if you're saying one thing somewhere and you're saying another thing somewhere else, where is that consistency that that person who's connecting with you across all these platforms, across different mediums, how is that being consistent? If it's not consistent, then there's going to be an issue with how people perceive you. Okay. So that was my little intro for that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, inconsistent messaging. So the thing that you've highlighted, which is incredibly important, is the consistency in just like kind of almost like the landing page, right? You can think about each of these platforms as a landing page, right? Like if somebody sees something you post, because usually people aren't going right to the landing page, right? Unless they've like scanned a QR code or like on your business card or an email or whatever, right? So you just sort of think about the journey of how somebody like comes kind of farther and farther down the funnel towards becoming your client, right? And
Right.
so it's important to look at how you show up in those spaces that are a little bit static, right? But then with inconsistent messaging, what comes up for me is just like, how often are you posting? Is that consistent? What are you known for posting? So it's like, this kind of harkens back to some of the conversations we've had about like, do you post about politics on social media? Do you post about personal stuff on social media? Like whatever you say is what you will become known for. So if you want to be known for something, that's what you need to talk about, right? We sometimes with some of the bigger accounts, and this is usually typical more on X, I would say, than LinkedIn, although I have seen it with some bigger accounts on LinkedIn, is like there might be something else that has nothing to do that if I'm frozen, we're coming back. There might be something else that you care about that has
Right.
nothing to do with your work.
Right.
You can use your platform to talk about that, but that will become a part of your sort of like avatar, right? And so if people were going to, think about like, okay, so what is Fly known for, right? So it's like, I talk a lot about, confidence and mindset. I talk a lot about kind of like the beginning steps of developing your social media, different things that are a little more granular about, like copywriting and other like content creation and things like that, right? But then I also talk about like being a mom, being a parent. I talk, and on different platforms as well, right? Being a professional person and the parts of my personal life that show up there, right? So those are, and then I'm also kind of a goofball, and the hats, right? And the cold color series and stuff, right? But there are different landmarks that I am known for because I'm frozen now, and we're going to come back. Here we are. And same with you, right? So it's just like, when I think about consistency in messaging, what do you want to be known for? That's what you need to talk about. And you need to show up consistently talking about those things. Yeah. In order for that eventual result to happen. So, and it takes time, right? And it takes time. And if there's something that you want to start talking about that you haven't, or even if you're just going to be, start posting again, it takes time to build that recognition through consistency, persistence, and just like endurance.
Right. And if you don't have a clarified message, like if your message is confusing, it's going to show up in your content that you produce because you don't know why you're producing what you should be producing. And then that messaging is also going to get, it's going to get lost on your website if you even have a website. And now I understand some of you cannot have websites. I get that, but you can have a landing page. There's nothing, I don't think, there's probably going to be somebody from some big corporation that's like, no, they can't have landing pages. But I mean, you can have a landing page that has your information and what, you stand for and what you represent. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's actual services out there like Linktree that will create a landing page for you that have links. If you want people to sign up for your newsletter because you're trying to build that, because you want to build your database of emails, that are yours, right? We've actually, I'm kind of going off on a little tangent. Not like that ever happens. But we've talked about earned media and owned media. So earned media is when you show up in the media without having to pay for it, right? So you press releases, we've got feature stories and articles. Maybe somebody asked you to be a part of an article, and so you gave your 2 cents and it got published, right? That's earned media. Owned media is the stuff that you own, including those email addresses. And that is something to think about. Like, if you are deciding that you're going to leave brokerage, go do your own thing, or move to another brokerage, who owns your emails? Do you own them? Does the brokerage own them? Like, how are you going to get in touch with those clients, right? So those are some of the things to think about. But if your message is inconsistent across platforms and across mediums, a confused buyer doesn't buy.
Yeah.
Right? So if we look at messaging from Coke, if we look at messaging from Pepsi or Nike or any of the big retailers, they have their messaging down pat. We're not confused as to what they do. We're confused as to what you do. If you tell me on your LinkedIn bio that you are an integrative solution solver with synergies for synergistic implementation across multi-universe, I don't know what that means. Like, literally,
wait, the last thing you said was interesting. When are we going to get the multi-universe brokers? Like some brokers in the MCU. Like, I need the Loki broker.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole new AI thing. The multiverse. Okay, so a confused buyer doesn't buy. So if you have inconsistent messaging, that is one of the ways that it's going to kill your credibility online. And here's another thing. If your brand shifts like the weather, that is going to be a challenge and people will not trust you. So consistency builds authority. So consistently show up where people can see you. Consistently show up via email. Consistently show up on some sort of forward-facing landing page that explains what your value proposition is.
Yeah.
And when you show up in real life, then you can present that value proposition to other people and they understand who you are. So again, a confused buyer does not buy. All right.
Yes. One other thing here is one concern I hear a lot from brokers and other folks in commercial real estate who are trying to, ramp up their socials or just get started, is that they're concerned about sounding too repetitive. So like, I forget the exact, good morning, Dwayne. I forget the exact statistic. It's changed pretty rapidly, as have our, like the advances in digital marketing and communication and all that stuff, right? But it takes like somewhere between 11 to 17 times of someone hearing the same message for it to move them across the finish line.
Right.
And people get very concerned, and that's real. Like, you need to repeat yourself, and people get concerned. They feel like, oh, like people are going to think I'm annoying. People are going to think I'm spammy. People, they are going to have a negative reaction to hearing me repeat myself, whether that is exactly the same sentence of like your value prop, or if it's like the same kinds of content over and over again. Wrong. Because one thing that you need to think about, this is what I always bring this conversation back to, is nobody is looking as closely at your content as you are.
Yep.
Simple as that. People like, if somebody is Eddie, what's up, Eddie? If somebody is looking that closely at their content, then they're like, wow, this person is saying the same thing over and over again. Like, they are probably interested, or they're trying to figure out like what you're all about. Or maybe they're a fan, you know what I mean? But the way that you will show up in the feeds is not your face over and over again, not the same post over and over again. you will show up in a mix of different things. And honestly, the best performing content on social media often is exactly the same template. If you think about, there are different, when you go on some of these creator accounts, especially in video forward platforms, it is like almost the same outfit. It is the same camera setup. It is the same cuts. It is the same visual effects. It's the same style of captions, all of it. It's consistency. And what that means is that when somebody lands on that video, when somebody sees your name come up, they know exactly what they should expect.
Correct.
And if you have content that is really working, content that they've seen that they have enjoyed before, they are more likely to watch because they already recognize what it is. And so I really push back against people who don't want to be repetitive on social media, whether that's in what they're saying, how they're saying it, or how it's packaged. Because
Correct.
the more consistent you are with that, the more recognizable you are. And the more recognizable you are, the more likely somebody is to think of you when it's time.
Right. And here's I love that point. Good morning, Nick, out of Tejas. We appreciate you too. My brother from another mother. So the other thing that I want to bring up too is that, and this just goes into what you were saying, is you can repeat your best performing content, and you should repeat your best performing content. You don't have to recreate the wheel every single freaking time, right? Like, go back over the last year and look at what your best performing content is. See how you can adjust it and then redo it. See what happens with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. What Fly is saying about consistent messaging and being repetitive, this is an issue that people have, right? Like I already said that. Okay, but you have a new audience. It's not the same audience as it was. I mean, you can even look at Twitter. It's literally not the same audience as it was 10 minutes ago. There's a new audience always being introduced to your content. And that new audience, that could be that one deal. That could be that one person that radically transforms your life. Do not be afraid to continue to say the same things over and over and over again until people know you for what you are, right? When we look at, trotting them out, Bob Knakal, I sell buildings in New York City, right? We know this. It's been said. It's everywhere. He says it repeatedly, right? Beth Azor, the canvassing queen. We know who she is. We know what she does. Rod Santomassimo, he's the number one broker coach in the world, right? Like, we know exactly who they are, what they do, because they know their value prop and they repeat it consistently. So
they also have like a schedule of kinds of posts that they do, very consistent, right? All three of them. Yes. And it's visually consistent. I mean, like, and of course, like, it's all great because oh no, look at how I froze.
But it's consistency, right? And it's always having the same colors, the same fonts. It's always knowing exactly what the end product is going to be, because that visually, like so like, let's not even talk about CRA brokers. Let's talk about Alex Hormozi, right? Yeah. When an Alex Hormozi video comes across and you see him with that stupid strip across his nose, and he's wearing like, workout clothes and shorts. They're not short shorts, but he's got really big thighs, so they look like short shorts, and like socks pulled up like mid calf. Like, that's how he lived. That's how he freaking shows up, and he doesn't care. Yes.
One point I need to make about Alex Hormozi, and this is a good reminder for everyone, is that a couple years ago, nobody knew who the hell he was.
Right.
Nobody knew who he was, and he was still pumping out content. He was pumping out content because he was committed, and he knew that it was going to take some time to build, but he didn't let you have to have consistency before you get results.
And he has systems and processes in place that help him do that. Right. So the next thing that we want to talk about, and if you guys have any questions, pop them in the chat or send us a DM, that's fine. But the next thing we want to talk about, we talked about three things that are making you lose credibility online. And this is what I call shiny object syndrome. Okay. I am infamous for, look at the squirrel, right? Like shiny object. Let's go that way. Nick knows this very well. So shiny object syndrome in social is chasing the latest trend.
Yeah.
And I have issues and challenges with this because yes, I would love to do all the fun stuff and all the trends and all the things. If it does not parlay well into my brand, it is not going to happen. There's something to be said that if you are trying to chase trends to create a viral moment instead of creating trust, you have lost the plot.
Yeah, I would highly recommend. I wanted to have started that sentence differently. Squirrel, Nick Ahorn. Wait, is it Ahorn or Ihorn? It's Ihorn.
It's Ihorn.
Ihorn. Blah. Very rarely do viral videos ever really truly move the needle. And this is the mistake that I see with this, is that people are going to dump a lot of time and effort into making that video or that meme or just like whatever it is, right? And again, that is something that can be very inconsistent. There is not always going to be a trend to hop on. You don't always have like 12 hours to, like literally drop everything and make a video, right?
And that's hold on, let me jump in there, right? Because trends happen so friggin' quickly, like so fast, that by the time you get something fully produced that looks well, and I say looks well, right? The trend's over with. And then people are like, oh, okay, well, you just jumped on that and big deal, right? That's not the messaging that you want. That is not the messaging you want to put out there. You want to create trust with your potential clients and prospects. You want to have a consistent presence. And yes, it's fun to jump on the trends. I'm not saying not to do that. Obviously, as we still see, there's tons of the action figures or whatever from last week or the week before. Like everybody was jumping on that and it was fun and it's still great. I love it, right? In fact, Hector he found some program and he made a video. I don't know if you saw that on X. I posted it last night. It's this little figure that it's my figure, but then it's somebody taking it out of the box and then holding a 3D image of it.
That's cool.
Anyway, yeah, very cool. But the point being is that if you're chasing all this shiny content, if you're chasing the shiny viral feeling, is that actually converting to leads? Is that actually converting to somebody coming down through your funnel and actually getting to where you want them to be? I could see the top of mind awareness. I could see it at the top of the funnel, right? Yeah. But if it's not bringing them down.
Yeah. It's really because like the accounts that I see do this really well, hopping on trends, are the accounts that already have an established presence. Accounts that already have built familiarity, because if nobody knows who you are, nobody cares about your action figure. That's it, right?
There's a great question from Terry. She says, I've expanded my commercial real estate business to include roofing and exterior construction.
Nice.
Any advice on positioning this added service for growth, especially when stepping into new markets or client types?
My first thing would just be to start talking about it and get really clear about why you did that. And the other thing too is like, this is curious because I would be curious to know what the stories are behind why you decided to add the service and the opportunities that you saw in being able to add more value to your business with your clients, and posting results of like, we did this, we did this for this client, we decided that it was so great that we're going to add this service on, like, etc. Like, and just start having conversations about it. That's my gut reaction to that?
That was actually exactly what I was thinking too, is the fact, yes, exactly, is the fact that what's the story behind this? What was the need that you saw that had to be filled? There was something there was a underserved market that you're like, this needs to happen. So what are those stories? And I know, Terry, that you're out there talking to people. I know exactly what it is that you do. So I know that you are getting that feedback and that personal stuff. That's exactly the stories that you should be sharing is, hey, we saw this underserved market. We knew that we could step in and take care of the problem. Here's our solution. And then you start talking about those client wins. You start talking about, like, if we're talking about roofing and exterior construction, and Terry, if I remember correctly, you're in Georgia, right? I want to say you're in Georgia. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments. But I mean, what are the issues that people are facing down there? Is it, obviously there's been flooding, there's been fire, there's been tornadoes, there's been everything, right? Like, so what are these people facing that they need this in their lives? And then how you come in and you provide that solution. So that's exactly how I position that, especially when, it depends on like, who is your target market? So that's something you need to define. Who are you working with most? Are you working mostly with other commercial like properties, or are we talking residential? So, we got to discuss like, what's the target market? Who is your ideal client? Who are you looking for? And then how do you get that information out there? So she's in Georgia. So yeah, that's exactly how I would do that is start adding that in as part of your as your content. That'll be one of your content pillars, right? So we're going to start talking about how this it could be anywhere from how it affects your property value, the appraisal value, like, right? So like there's all these different things that, see? So there had to have been, so multifamily and commercial, you had to have seen that there's something happening that needed to be addressed. Start talking about that. Start walking around the neighborhoods and maybe filming yourself and going, okay, I can walk around this neighborhood and know that I could add $10,000 value to this. It could be whatever amount you want to put on there. I have no idea, but I could add $10,000 of value just by doing these three things, right? Like, and then explaining what needs to happen. So that's how I'd position myself with that one.
But this also goes back to the last point of the 3 ways that you're killing your credibility online is not talking about your results. Not talking about, not giving us that sweet social proof.
Oh, we need to have that as a sound. Sweet social
proof.
I love it.
Like really, this, but you and I have we have griped
times
about people who only post listings and results.
Yep.
But you gotta post them. We do not want that to be the only thing, because that is not our recommendation for love how I freeze. It's not our recommendation for how you add value, right?
Correct.
It is because listings and results posts can be very much like an ask, a take, a look at me, right? But when you add a story into that, like some of the frameworks that we've seen work really well would be, like challenge, action, result, testimonial. Right. That is the NACL way, right? This was the problem. This is what we did. This is what we got. And here's how they felt about it.
Right. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And that's, so when you have a framework like that and you start telling stories, whether it's the listing or it's just leased, just sold, just listed, whatever the case is, if you have a story that goes behind that, tell the story. We would rather hear the story than just like look at your actual, social media post where you're just like, right? That's just this nobody's interested in that, right? We want the story behind it. And last thing before we go, and we actually just touched on this, is no proof of work. This is the other way that you lose credibility online. If you do not have the receipts for what you've done, people are going to start and I question you. And there is one person that I know of in particular that is on X that has positioned himself as a person of authority doing certain things. And then I found out from somebody else that he actually don't do that. And I sat there and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? And he's like, no, like, doesn't actually do what he says he does. And I'm like, then why the hell are we still like sharing his shit? Right?
Right.
If you're not, it was such a letdown to know that, like, because everything that, like, I loved it. I loved the content. I loved everything. And then to find out that everything was done, like, he doesn't do it. It's just like, all right, I'm out. You absolutely lost credibility with that. Right. And of course, I did my due diligence and I didn't just listen to one person. I started like quietly asking around and doing some things. And I was like, damn, dude, no. Like, we don't go on social and say that we did something and then not actually do it. I mean, there's a shit ton of people who do that because they make a lot of money off of it. But have you lost credibility? Abso-freaking-lutely. And everybody knows you're a liar. Ugh, we don't want that. So Dwayne says most of my stuff can't be disclosed.
Yeah.
And I get that. You have to figure out a way. There are absolute ways that you can talk about situations without mentioning clients, locations. You can talk about it in a way that allows you to think about the situation, about what was happening, and you can still tell that story without actually giving all the details away. And so I totally get that. But if you're not sharing social proof, if you're not sharing your testimonials in a way that is engaging and exciting, and if you don't have receipts of what you've been doing and what you've been building, you are going to lose credibility, hands down.
Can I also
go?
I know, we do. But I do just want to say too, I don't think that people ask enough for testimonials.
Oh, they do not.
And I understand the reasoning why, right? You don't like, it can be humbling. It can be uncomfortable. It can be, there can be a million reasons why the block might be there, but it's the same. It is absolutely necessary for your business.
Yeah.
And if you're doing this, if you are all in, like, you got to make the ask. And it doesn't need to be a whole thing. And they are allowed to say no. But if you have gotten somebody success, if you have gotten somebody results, like, you should feel very, very proud of that. Yep. And you are entitled. We give you permission to go to them and say, like, hey, I would love to share this so that I can celebrate you. And you can always position. I love positioning like that, to be like, I would love to celebrate you, and to be able to talk about this, right? And if you can kind of switch it around on them to be like, let's put you in the spotlight, you know what I mean? But it's just like, it can be super casual. It can just be, like, leave a Google review, do you want to hop on a video chat and, make a little video, right? Like, depending on your relationship with the client, you'll have, your mileage may vary, right? But you have to make the ask in the same way that you should be asking for referrals, in the same way that you're straight up in the beginning asking somebody for their business.
Love that. Love the fact that you said ask for referrals. Yes, absolutely. It's funny you mentioned that because it's something Hector and I have been talking about. I'm like, he's like, you don't ask for referrals. I'm like, no, it doesn't pop in my head to do that. But I have gotten better at asking for testimonials, to the point where once a client says that they want to end a contract with me, totally fine. That's great. I will send them an email, like, going, okay, I get it. I understand, like, blah, 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 blah. If I have a link that they can do a video testimonial, or I actually write the testimonial for them. I will write the testimonial. I will write the
friction.
Yes.
Remove the friction. And you can do that. You take that same framework, of like challenge, action, result, testimonial, right? And then, you can say to them, is this representative of our work together? Sorry, I just stole your thunder.
No, it's that's exactly what it is. if you're the thing I understand is that if I ask somebody to write a testimonial for me, it is going to be such a mental block for them because I'm already doing their social media. I already know that they don't want to write. I already know that they don't want to do certain things. So it's like, here's a testimonial that I came up talking about our results, which we've already talked about. You know, is this good for you? And 9 times out of 10, it's like, yeah, that's perfect. Mo, thanks. Or it's like, oh, let me adjust it. I'm like, okay, cool. And then they'll send it back. Right. So I'm already removing the friction and making sure that they have the ability to be like, okay, that's cool. I'm happy to put my name on that. So we will see you guys back here on Thursday. You got to take Miss Ruby to school. Thanks to everybody who joined in. And if you have any questions, you can DM us. We're available on all the social platforms. Also, don't forget, we're doing the wait list for Social Mastery VIP. It's going to be a group that's talking about marketing, social media, the whole marketing ecosystem, and we want to help you out. So take a look. It is socialmasteryvip.com, and it's a school group. So I can't wait to see you guys there. Waitlist is available now. Okay, everybody, have a great day. Bye.